are the business. I want to talk to you all about one of our best products, and one that I do not think we talk enough about, and that is Diamond Bright. And where this all came about, I tried to bring you real-life conversations that I have. I was chatting with a gal, and she said she was very conscientious about being green and about, saving the earth kind of a thing. And she was under the assumption that all that really meant for her, what she could do is, try to recycle everything. In conversation, I noticed, because I was at her home, that she was using a dish detergent by the name of Cascade. And I said, are you aware of what is in that? So long story short, aside from the bleach, we had a conversation about phosphates. And she just looked at me with big, wide eyes and said, oh, my goodness, I need to talk to my friends about this. I don't think people are aware of this. So I want to just share with you a couple of things. That the greatest contribution that someone can give to their fellow man and Mother Earth is to switch their dishwashing detergent. If you look on the inside of your Melaleuca Country catalog on page 85, it says, do you or anyone you know use these brands? They all contain chlorine bleach, Cascade, Palmolive Eco Plus, Finish Gel, Great Value, and Shopper's Value. These are all registered trademarks. So those all contain bleach, and obviously you have to have child-proof safety caps. But the big deal that I think a lot of folks don't realize is that Cascade, Finish, all these brands not only have the bleach, but they contain phosphates. Now, I know the world is trying to get rid of these phosphates and stuff, but they're finding that it's not as easy as it seems because it's expensive to manufacture responsibly. So when you think about phosphates, you don't think that will really matter. Let me explain to you what they do. They're a form of phosphorus, and what happens when you have phosphorus in water is it makes the algae grow too fast. It's called eutrophication. And so what happens is when the algae overgrows, it uses the oxygen that's in the water. And it also, you've seen this before, when you see an overgrown algae stream or a body of water, it covers it like a blanket. So what happens is the sunlight can't reach through the water, and this is really bad for the aquatic life. So I think that, in the late 60s, when it started this movement of being green and trying to get the phosphates out, we sometimes forget that something as simple as your dishwashing detergent has an enormous impact on whether or not you really are contributing to trying to heal Mother Nature. So it's a very big deal. Please be proactive and come right out and ask people, what are you using to wash your dishes with your dishwasher, and get good at just very simple, easy. I mean, most people can explain why phosphorus is bad, but understanding how wonderful the Diamond Bright is really the best thing you can talk about. First of all, value is price, science and ingredients, and performance, right? So let's talk about price. It's 4 times concentrate. So that means you use a quarter of what you normally use in the dishwasher. And so you're only going to use a little bitty amount. And when you break it out, it's about 15 cents a load. Now, when you buy the 3-pack, which is the pantry pack, which is 3 bottles of Diamond Bright, it's only about 14 cents a load. So it's extremely economical. So we've got the competition beat there. Science and ingredients. When you talk about the science as something as what people don't really think about, like a dishwashing detergent, it's enormous science in this product. First of all, there's naturally derived enzymes, and the scientists actually figured out how to mimic the digestive enzymes in your stomach. That just makes common sense, because what's on the dishes is food. So it's able to molecularly break down, these enzymes are able to break down the food. That you don't need harsh chemicals to clean. The other thing that it's got in there as far as science and ingredients, it's got this anti-filming agent called OptiShine. And what that's doing is keeping the water spots from setting in on your dishes and on your beautiful glasses. So there's an enormous amount of science in this one teeny tiny little product, but it has an enormous impact on your immune system, keeping the chemicals away, your children, on Mother Nature, performance. For those of you that are Melaleuca customers, you know it works extremely well. Now, if you have hard water, and I lived in the country for years and had hard water, what I did to make it work even better is I put a capful of Sol-U-Mel right in there with the Diamond Bright in the little cup thingy. And now it does a couple of things. It helps to, obviously, it's a degreaser, so it helps to break down the food particles even more. I'm Italian cook, so I use a lot of olive oil and sauces and things, so it really helped that. But it also helps to reduce water spots, because when you have hard water, sometimes you do have water spots. And the other thing that it did is, you know, the steam cycle at the end when your dishes are almost done, you know, it's drying, so now the steam's all coming out of your dishwasher. Remember, if you're using a bleach product, you're actually, you know, sending right into the air the bleach. Keep the kids out of the kitchen if you're going to use one of those products when the dishwasher's going. But when you're using our product with the Sol-U-Mel, the whole kitchen smells so good. For those of you that do a lot of cooking, like myself, sometimes when you're cooking yummy things like fish and cauliflower and broccoli, they taste wonderful, they're good for you, but they stink the kitchen up. When you have that little capful of Sol-U-Mel right in there with the Diamond Bright, it kind of disinfects the whole kitchen. So it's just one of the best products that Melaleuca manufactures, Eddie. I know you use it in your home.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things with the automatic dishwasher is that when the dishes are drying in there, okay, the chemicals that are used in, say, Cascade or other things are actually drying themselves on the plate,
right,
and in the glass,
right.
So, you know, I've always told people that aren't yet customers, when you do your next load of dishes with Cascade, take a glass out after it's done and smell it. Smell the inside of the glass, which you can really smell of the chemicals that have been dried inside that glass. And then I'll say to them as a joke, and then go pour yourself a nice, cool glass of filtered water. Because they're conscious of their water, but they're not conscious of what's been dried inside that glass.
Yep.
So you constantly, again, here come the chemicals.
Yep. And you know what else goes along with that, Eddie, is if you understand how the chemicals are re-released is by heat. Mm-hmm. So let's just envision you're setting the table right from the dishwasher like most of us do, and you've got that beautiful dish that just was cleaned in the dishwasher, and then you plop a big plate of hot spaghetti on it.
Oh, yeah.
So the heat is releasing whatever.
Or even just a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
I mean,
a cup of
it's
coffee,
everything.
perfect example, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another important thing is the dishwashers. When you open the dishwasher and then you open the door and you're loading it, the cup where you put the chemicals is right there at baby eye level. This is something that always bothered me, that, you know, the little ones are always following Mommy around. And it's so easy to turn your back for a second and the little peanut puts their finger in because it smells like it could taste good. And, of course, we know the disaster if a child has even just a little tiny amount of that in their mouth. So just a responsible decision. Make it your business to be sure that all of you, the accounts you open, all of your customers know how wonderful this works. If they live in a place where there's hard water or they're complaining that they tried it and it didn't have a degreaser in it, if you will, or something for spots, just tell them about Sol-U-Mel. But this is a big product to contribute to our overall health and wellness and keeping our immune system strong and protecting the kids. So that's my segment for this morning. Okay. We were excited on Friday to get up and listen to the first of the month's incentive. Please, if you have not listened, you need to go listen. There's some great training in there by Alan Pariser, and you want to listen to it. But the March incentives, we know, is that we get to use the fun $1 membership incentive for a limited time. It does kind of give us a sense of urgency. There's only 16 days to use it. So you want to make sure that you are using it, you get the word out. Just don't assume, we try to say this as often as possible, don't assume that your marketing executives, your enrollers, your business partners know. If they just found out today, they've lost 4 days. So you want to make sure that you kind of, pick up the phone if you've got a reasonable size organization that you can reach out. At the very least, you want to make sure you shoot them an email, but follow up and make sure your enrollers know what the incentive is. Now, when you're doing the $1 incentive, a couple of things. First of all, Eddie, is you got to make sure you don't give them a dollar overview. You give them the full delivering wellness, no matter what, all the time. And you're building with the Pacesetter Pack business kit system. What happens is you give the customer that you just opened their account, you give them the membership, you record the membership kit number on the contract, and you have a new kit drop shipped to you so that you can resell it. I mean, this is only on until the 20th, and then you resell it for the full amount that you paid for it. So that makes that pretty easy. All right, the second incentive that we got, and I got excited about this one because that was one of the questions when the company it announced this wonderful 2020 incentive, is that you get $500, obviously, when you reach 2020 for the first time, $500 bonus. And now they're offering it to everybody, Eddie. So even if you've been, a customer for 10 years, as long as you've never reached the 2020 club before, so first time 2020 club member, and you open at least 4 shopping accounts in the month of March, you're going to get a $500 bonus. That's big. That's a big bonus. Granted, for some, maybe they're at 13, and they're going to have to open 7 accounts in the month of March. But there's probably a lot more marketing executives than you think within your business that are really close to the 2020 club and never really had a big incentive to push to get over that hump. Now you've got 500 reasons to push and get yourself to 20 customers. So
yeah, you know what, Paulette, and while you're talking, I'm thinking, plus it's $1 enrollment.
Right.
So if someone, even if someone had to get 5 or 6 or 7 enrollments to get the 500, the enrollments are $1.
Right. Right. Oh, absolutely. And this is where the Moore report, I mean, I'm not a big pusher for the Moore because I'm afraid people get stuck in there and waste too much time analyzing, and that's no good. But it's a wonderful resource tool for something like this, where you can really take a peek, who on your team is close. Now, obviously, if you want to make sure that they never reached the 2020 club before, but think how much fun you can have today, tomorrow, this week, finding out who can, increase their check by $500. That's an enormous amount of money for the effort. So make sure you make it your business to know who it is and what you have to do to encourage them and team up with them. And there's so many things you can talk to them about. Okay, the third incentive for the month of March, of course, convention is 58 days away. 58. I mean, my goodness, the time flies. You want to be there, and that's where you get all your beliefs. Your aha moments happen at the convention, and you should be talking about it to everybody, and you need to be there. I mean, it's the single most important event of the year as it pertains to your Melaleuca business. So the incentive they've added for us for the month of March is if you'd like to get your picture taken with Frank and Belinda at the convention, which is a wonderful, wonderful keepsake to put in your office, just open 8 shopping accounts this month, or open 4 accounts and help one person reach director that you personally enrolled. So those are the incentives for the month of March, Eddie. They're really, really good.
Yep, all good stuff. All the arrows are pointing to that 2020 club. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what happened this week. We had a great leadership connection last week, Eddie, when we were talking about, what makes people become frustrated. We talked a little bit about what we felt were some of the pitfalls and some of the solutions. In chatting with some of the marketing executives this week, I realized that maybe we need to talk a little bit more about what you do when you open the account with a Category 2 and 3 so you don't become frustrated. I realize that there are still a lot of folks that are struggling a little bit with what is the bridge? What's the delta? How do you get them from saying that they're a Category 2 and 3 to swinging into action? So I thought maybe we'd talk a little bit about that for a minute here.
Yeah, Paulette, and as we spoke last night and this morning about this subject, it dawned on me, and then as I mentioned it to you, I think it dawned on both of us that, and here's the question. Paulette, why don't people ask their new enrollment, part-time or more time, okay, why, I can't stand Category 2 and 3, part-time or more time, why don't people ask them right up front, are you coachable? Why don't people ask that question? It's an awesome, honest, real question that requires no posture. You don't have to be an English major to say, can I ask you a question? Are you coachable? Why don't people ask the question?
I think that, again, I'm only going to take a swing at this. I don't know, but I'm a pretty good guesser. I think a lot of folks feel that they need to have more experience to say, are you coachable? I want everyone listening to understand that when you are out there and you're introducing folks to this business model and the brand, even if you're brand spanking new, you know more than them. And yes, you are in a position to coach them. If you personally aren't ready, you know you can lead them where they need to be. So you need to dispel that. That's a lie you're telling yourself in your head. That's a lie. So you need to start telling yourself, I can ask, that's great. You want to build a part-time income. That's fabulous. I got to ask you this question. Are you coachable? Are you in a place in your life where you're ready to, take direction and let's really get this done? You've got to be willing to do that because that is the next step when you're trying to bridge this gap between someone sitting there with the deer in the headlights. Yes, teach me how to make money, and you being the coach. Just ask them that question. It stimulates conversation. Almost always, Eddie, they say, well, of course.
I've never had anybody say no. It's just a simple question. But what it allows the enroller to do, it gives the enroller then permission. And this is what I don't think people understand. And this could be a reason why they don't ask. So let's kick it around a little bit. It gives the enroller of the new potential business builder permission to turn the page to page 33. You don't go to page 33 and ask. You ask when you're on the 1, 2, 3 page because that's the close. They've filled out the paperwork, and you say, I got a question for you, Bill. It's pretty simple. It's just one question, and I'm only going to need you for a few more minutes. But the question is, are you coachable? Well, yeah, sure, I'm coachable. Great. He just gave me permission to turn the page to what the coachable people do.
Right, that's the key right there.
Yep.
I think maybe the enroller is deer in the headlights when they say yes. And so you don't need to have this big eloquent answer. That what Eddie just said is what is the next words out of their mouth. They're always going to say yes. say, great, let me just take a minute or two here longer and just show you what the coachable people do.
So maybe people aren't asking if they're coachable because they're afraid to turn the page. Maybe they're afraid to have that 10-minute keep it real conversation. Maybe they're afraid to talk about value and I'm afraid I'm going to lose them. What? You're afraid you're going to lose them? I want to know now.
Right. I know you get a little frustrated, but it's a loving frustration, everyone, because we all grow and gain our posture, but this is one of those things that you need to trust us on and get good at being comfortable with. Because when someone says yes, I'm not kidding, because I always say, I'm not asking if you want the money to fall from heaven. Are you willing to work for your extra income? Oh, of course. Yeah, Paulette, I know. Okay, now the key is you've got to send them home with their homework. So you can't let them leave your energy spot just all excited, and then there's nothing for them to do. Because then, adrenaline only lasts 72 hours, and if they get shot down when they get home, it's over. If you don't have an appointment set with them. So this is the critical part where I think a lot of people, it's like when you're sewing and you forget to knot it at the end, and then you went through all that motion of sewing something, and then you do one pull and the whole thing comes down because you didn't put that knot at the end of the thread. It's kind of like that with this particular piece of your business. You've got to make sure that you give them their homework. So you don't have to be hard. This isn't a hard close. If you're looking at page 33, it just says getting started the right way. Now in here, you're going to say your homework. This here is CD number 2, and I want you to listen to this CD number 2. Number 1 is later, so don't go ahead of the teacher here. Listen to the second CD first. That's going to be what we're going to talk about when we sit down at your strategy session, because if we're going to be in business, you and I both know that you have to have a business plan. Right, Mary? Yeah, that makes sense, Paulette. Okay, great. So, Eddie, the CDs are so important because that's the homework. Well, and what do you suggest they do with the CDs before they hand them out?
Well, I got to tell you what I do, and I suggest everybody do the same. Don't just hand them the 2 CDs with the cellophane on it, because it's like breaking into Fort Knox to get that cellophane off. I mean, when I usually give it to somebody, my CDs, the cover has teeth marks in it because I'm trying to get the darn cellophane off it. It takes 2 men in the truck. But I honestly, I actually take the cellophane off it because it is a bit of a pain, and I take CD number 2 right out of the case and hand it to them and say, why don't you listen to this on the way home?
Yeah.
Because if it goes in the back seat, they may not have it done by the time they have to have their homework. It's part of the homework.
Yep. And don't forget, when they leave you, they're probably in the best position right then to receive the information because they're excited and they just saw, you introduced this brand to them and they're kind of excited about that. And you probably, for the first time in a long time, they allowed themselves to dream a little bit. What would it be like to add 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 a month to my income without having to find another full-time job? So that they're in a position to hear the Doing It on Purpose CD. So Eddie's making a funny saying, there's teeth marks in his taking the cellophane off, but it's really quite smart because if you're trying to reduce resistance, right? And take away the excuses. So just, real life, they get in the car going home and they can't get the darn thing open and they're in a hurry and they just say, forget it, I'll listen to it tomorrow. So, you never know. We're always trying to increase our odds of succeeding, and that is a big deal to let them listen to that little homework piece on the way home. And it's okay. It's okay if they listen and maybe you're fussing a little bit. Maybe, if a business person fusses too much about the principle of the pace setter pack, that's a red flag for me. I have no trouble dealing with someone that listens to it, understands the principle, but has financial distress. That we can work through. But you want them to listen to understand the principle of what a business plan is, the concept of duplication. So don't be afraid. You're not going to lose them if they understand the truth that there is a strategy to duplicating quicker. So don't be afraid of that part.
Well, and certainly never be afraid of asking them the question, are you coachable? I mean, it's really an awesome, when you think it through and they say yes, it really allows you not just to turn the page to this is how you get started right, this is what the coachable people do. And remember, Bill, you did say you were coachable. It gives you so much ammunition to hold his feet to the fire if he decides not to do one or two items on the checklist. You're going to say, Bill, you said you were coachable on Wednesday night. Here it is Friday. You haven't completed the homework. Let's roll, bud. We're going to put our plan of action together. I mean, in 13 hours, we can get you to director and make around a $600 check. Let's go. And
now, Eddie, on that, I've gotten a lot of emails and a lot of chatter about how much folks love what we're talking about with this 2, 2, and 2. You know, the more simple you keep something, the greater the chances of duplication. And this is a neat little system, a 13-hour investment of time. We've broken this down before. It breaks down to about an hour of phone calls with your coach, setting the appointments, and then you're going to do 2 in-homes, which are about 3 hours each, and then we're padding that with some driving time to be realistic. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of one-on-ones, and those are really 2-on-ones because it's you and your new potential director and their guest. And those are about an hour and a half each with driving time, and then 2 webinars. And then we have an hour and a half each for those, including closing time, because when you invite someone to a webinar, the most important part of that webinar is when you call them immediately when it's finished and ask them what they liked best about what they heard and et cetera. So
I would never, ever, ever invite someone to a webinar if I wasn't going to be on it with them.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, Eddie, that's why a lot of folks that think that the webinar is a shortcut don't do well. Because the only thing that the webinar does is it reduces the distance between you and that person. In other words, if they're in California and you're in Massachusetts, you're not going to be able to do a one-on-one with them or a 2-on-1, so you can do it over the web, which is wonderful technology. But the magic is still in the connection and helping that person understand why Melaleuca makes sense for them and their family, not only as a consumer, but also perhaps as someone that wants to revenue share with a manufacturing company. So don't bother sending people to webinars if you're not going to be present, quote unquote, and call them and close them. Because now basically what you've done is you just sent someone the keys to your house and they can just waltz through it. You never do that. You want to be there and explain and help them understand. And so you got to be there for the close of the webinar.
So when you add these 3 tasks, a couple of in-homes, a couple of 2-on-1s, and a couple of webinars, it's 13 hours. If you could almost put in writing and guarantee that if your new person puts you in front of just 12 people during the course of this 13-hour stretch, you're absolutely 110% you're going to at least enroll 8 customers.
Yeah.
You can guarantee someone with 13 hours of effort and getting in front of just 12 potentials. And in many cases, 10 will do it. In some cases, 8. There's nothing to say no to if you do a good presentation here. So now, if this works for you guys, if it works for Paulette, if it works for me, if it works for the folks that we're teaching it to, then you can teach it. Paulette, we talked about this morning. It's impossible to ask somebody to do something that you haven't done.
It is, because you've got no reference point. And if you've never done 2 in-homes, 2 one-on-ones, and 2 webinars in a 7 to 14-day stretch yourself personally, you want to make it be that's you're going to do that. I mean, I don't care if you've been a marketing executive for 10 years.
That ought to be the goal for everybody with their next enrollment that comes in the right way, to sit them down and say, have you got 13 hours over the next 2 weeks? And let's get the job done by the 20th, where enrollments are $1.
Right.
And let's get you the director. And see, his story, the new director's story, is awesome. But the fact that you did it, that's the story you'll tell for the next 3 years.
Exactly right. And that's what creates the duplication, because now you're speaking from a place where you feel confident. See, that's where a lot of times people miss the forest for the trees. If you're not doing something, it's because you don't believe in it. And a lot of times we don't believe in it because we haven't had any success doing it. So that's kind of like that crazy loop, which came first, the chicken or the egg. And, Eddie, if you boil the water out, this is the beginnings of this person's business, right? The enroller is doing the work. I mean, let's just be honest here. The coach is doing the work. So they're going to be paid about $50 an hour to be trained. Because it's on-the-job training, right?
Yep.
So they're going to be paid about $50 an hour while they're being trained. I mean, that's a darn good business proposition. And then at the end of that, 13 hours, they can make a decision if they want to move forward or they want to stop. But, I mean, if you do this in a short period of time, what happens is that as long as they're putting you in front of, pretty decent folks, someone is going to say, this seems like it's not that hard. You're going to make money doing this, Bob? Yeah. Paulette's showing me how to do this, and I think I can do this. You're going to find, the tumbleweed is going to start to grow if you make it this big long process. And I've been trying to get any customers for 2 months, and it's the sense of urgency that also becomes very attractive.
Well, my friend Cisco Paulette has been dripping on a guy that has experience that was also looking at a franchise. And as Cisco understood this 13-hour to director thing, I heard him on the phone the other day talking to this fella, and he said what the guy was afraid of, that Cisco was dripping on, was a big time commitment. And when Cisco said, look, over the next couple of weeks, can you find 13 hours? And the guy said, yeah. He said, well, let me tell you what will happen in 13 hours. And Cisco went through this with him.
Yep.
And the guy said, I'll be at your office tomorrow to fill out the paperwork.
Yep. So that reduces that fear right there.
Yep.
That's so good.
What's the old adage, Paulette? If you expect more,
you get more. Yep.
And geez, I'm just telling you, in the last week of a month, if someone enrolled as a tour, this is part-time. This is what a 2 can do.
Yep.
If you had 3 weeks and you put 2 in-homes together with just 4 people at each in-home, there's 8. A couple of one-on-ones, there's 10. A couple of webinars, there's 12. Bingo. You got lucky at an in-home and you had 6. Well, maybe you won't have to do the webinars.
You know why I like them to go through and do all, Eddie? Even if they're at 8, let's finish, because now they've personally experienced the 3 ways, the techniques that you can use, the tools to open shopping accounts with the consumer.
I think the biggest thing of all, Paulette, is that when you teach this to someone and they do it, number one, you got bragging rights because you did it with your new person.
Right.
But they have bragging rights with their new business builder, because now they can say, well, look what I did in 13 hours. And here's the check I got. And it'll totally duplicate.
Yeah, it will.
Yep.
It will, most definitely. So let's get good as a team of coaches, giving our marketing executives that are throwing in with us part or more time, the courage to ask the right questions, to create that bridge between, yes, I'd like to earn some money, coach me, and asking them if they're coachable, and telling them what coachable people do. And you know what? Let's sit down tomorrow or the next day. What's good for you? I set the 48-hour strategy session, follow-up appointment right at the time of enrollment. Okay, great. This is what I need you to do. This is your homework. Open up take the cellophane off, give them the CD, and then, be succinct. This is not a long, dragged-out thing. I mean, you coach as you go, and it's on-the-job training. And then one more thing, Eddie, I think we should talk about before we close is how important how important it is for a great coach to encourage. Now, whether someone's new or a veteran, regardless, we all fall down. We all fall down. Everybody needs to be lifted up. Encouragement.
Well, let's talk about that one slide that was you and I where were you, in Anaheim?
Yeah, we were with McKay at that LEAD 2013 event.
Right, and that one slide, when it came up, you and I looked at each other and went, bang, there it is.
Yep.
And what did the slide say?
It said, what did your enroller do right that helped you reach Director 3 or above?
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing. The defining ingredient on almost every single one of these folks that were doing good is encouragement. One person said she kept encouraging me. He made a daily encouragement call to me. And it's almost like it's like you said, we looked at each other and almost put our hand over our mouth like, you're kidding, really? We sometimes forget how important those little phone calls are to encourage people. And when you listen to the definition of what encouragement is, it says to inspire with courage, spirit or hope, hearten, to spur on, stimulate, lift or raise one's confidence, to give help or patronage to. That's the definition of encouragement. So inspire, lift, spur on, stimulate. That's what encouragement is. And I think we sometimes forget how important that is.
Yeah, and it's got to come from your heart.
Yeah.
I think with the right kind of encouragement, people feel closer to you. And this is such a relationship business, Paulette. But a caution flag might be not to over-encourage, and certainly to never give false encouragement.
Right.
What would false encouragement look like?
Well, it's a big no-no. False encouragement falls into the category of unicorns and butterflies. Don't do it. You want to make sure that you always tell the truth. Be positive and upbeat. But if it took someone 2 or 3 months to open 8 shopping accounts, don't say, don't worry, you're still going to reach senior by summer. I mean, that's false encouragement. At the rate they're going, they're not going to reach senior by summer. And once they realize that you're blowing smoke up their skirt, they're going to not trust you anymore. And when the trust is gone, the game is over.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that your common sense. Treat others the way you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest thing to do is just to stay connected. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything to them. You're calling them and you're thinking about them. That encourages them.
Well, while you're talking, I'm thinking that part of one of the easiest things to encourage people, in my mind's eye, is to simply sit with them and put down realistic short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals with encouragement.
Right.
How many hours a week can we spend at this? Let's take a look at our 13-hour plan here. Who do we have that you've brought into the business that came in that's coachable, that came in with a pace setter? Who do we have that we can spend those 13 hours with? We're constantly sifting through our new leaders to find the one that's really going to stick and help our new leader move his business forward. And so it's all part of this I just don't think there's enough of it going on. Enough encouragement. I just don't think. And when you and I saw that slide that McKay put in, he did this awesome survey. And I got it here. It said, she kept encouraging me.
Yeah. And daily encouragement calls. I mean, I guess we should probably make that a new critical activity.
It was the defining ingredient to my success. She kept encouraging me.
Right.
And the reason we bring this up for everybody today is because maybe you are, and maybe you're not. Maybe you have, and maybe you haven't. But think about it. Think about what it would have been like if you had been encouraged maybe a little bit more. And maybe, your enroller didn't do it. Well, now you're the enroller.
Absolutely. And one of the easiest things to do, Eddie, is to just be present. Just your presence, that you're thinking about them and checking in with them offers them support. And always reinforce what they are doing right. Don't focus on what they're not doing well enough yet. Recently, I was coaching someone, and again, this kind of falls under the category of, sometimes when you're really good at something because you've practiced it a million times, people need to be reminded that, you had to learn how to be good at this. I was coaching someone, and she kind of looked at me, and she said, Paulette, I will never be able to do this like you do this. And I looked at her and I said, darling, if you did this day in and day out for 14 consecutive years, you might be better than me. So don't shortchange yourself. And she just looked at me, and she was encouraged. She said, oh, I'm so glad you told me that. I said, listen, my first few presentations, overviews were painful. They were so painful, my own friend said, Paulette, please stop talking. And she got to laughing, and a lot of humor is very encouraging. And Oscar Wilde, if you like his philosophy, he said, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. And I believe that completely. I mean, we all have our own little unique set of gifts that we bring to the party. I happen to learn things quickly, but it takes me a while to get it in my head. Until that time, I'm pretty horrible. Other people have other gifts. I just let folks know, listen, you just keep, repetition is the mother of learning. There's so many people, Eddie, that could be so much better at this than you and I, if they would just believe in themselves and just keep moving forward. And that's what encouragement is.
Yep.
That's what it is.
Great subject. I think we should talk about everything that we've discussed today. I think we should talk more often. I really want to get this 13-hour investment to director really instilled in everybody's mindset. And the big thing there, Paulette, was that if you haven't done it, you really can't discuss it. But if you get somebody and you get it done, boy, you can talk about that till the cows come home.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
All right, two quick things before we end our Leadership Connection. North American Power Hour is for the next 2 consecutive Tuesdays, Tuesday, March 5th, and then again the following week. They're at 12 noon and 7 at night Eastern Time. And, of course, one of your little responsibilities as a leader is to rally the troops, and teaching them how to approach is one of the most important things you can do. So make sure you put that on your calendar. And I just want to remind some folks locally here, we are doing a director's dinner in Rhode Island tonight at the Islander Restaurant. Please check the website for wherever you are locally. Support your local leadership celebrations, director dinners. Very, very important. And what's even more important is that you RSVP, because we can't make sure there's food there if you don't tell us. So that's a big thing. And also, I'm flying out on Friday morning. I'm going to be doing a business summit that's open to everyone in Salt Lake City this weekend. So if I'm going to see you there, that'll be great. I could put a face to the voice. And that's it, Eddie.
Great job, Paulette.
Okay, see you guys next week.